So today we run a clinic. I'll put 3 things in front of you that you'd really see on a bad week, and you get a couple of seconds on each one to work out what's going on, and then we go through it together. And do you need the episodes before this one? Not really, because I'll give you whatever you need as we go. Now, over the last couple of episodes, we built up 3 places to look: your dashboard, then the counters the hardware keeps about its own insides, then a profiler, and today, not one of them is going to be wrong, and not one of them is going to help you either. I'm Mani Khanuja, and if this is where you're joining me, I'm a principal generative AI specialist, solutions architect at AWS. Let's get into it. So here's the thing I'd like you holding all the way through. Each of these instruments can see out to a certain distance, and then it stops. And it won't tell you that it stopped. It just answers. Question 1. So the first thing your users notice is how long they wait before any words come back at all. And that's your time to first token. And you've promised them 300 milliseconds of it at the 99th percentile. So 99 out of every 100 requests should come in under that. So you open the dashboard you built off your server's own metrics, and the time to first token panel says your 99th percentile is 280 milliseconds. So you're inside your promise with 20 milliseconds to spare. And your users are telling you the product feels slow. Who's right? Your users are right. And your dashboard isn't lying to you either. It's answering something narrower than what you asked, and it does that twice over. So let's start with that 280 milliseconds. Is that a measurement? It isn't, and that surprises people. Your server doesn't keep a timing for every request because that memory would grow all day. So it keeps counts instead. How many came in under a tenth of a second? How many under a quarter of a second? And so on up. And when you ask for a percentile, it finds the range your 99th percentile fell into, and it estimates a number inside that range by assuming your requests are spread evenly across it. So how wide are those ranges? On vLLM today, one of them runs from a quarter of a second all the way up to half a second, and there's nothing in between the two. So your promise of 300 milliseconds is inside that range, and so is the 280 on your panel. That one range is 250 milliseconds wide, and your whole margin was 20. So that panel can't tell you which side of your own promise you're on. And the panel is doing exactly what it was built to do, and it just isn't fine-grained enough for the question you're asking it. Now the bigger half, and this is the one I'd go and fix first. When does that clock start? It starts when the request reaches your server. And we followed a request all the way through the system earlier in this course, and it starts at your client. And the first thing it meets is your load balancer, and that picks one of your replicas to hand it along to. So your load balancer and your network and whatever your client did before it sent anything, all of that happens before that clock starts. Your server is timing from where it sits, and your user is timing from where they sit. So what do you do about it? Time it at the client. Send a real request from where your users actually are. Time it there, and put that number next to what your dashboard says for the same window. And whichever way that difference goes, it's real and somebody owns it. And should you throw the server's number away? Not at all. And I still look at it first because nothing else will tell you where the time went inside the box. Just don't report it as what your user got. So say you do that, and the client agrees with the dashboard, and the extra time really is inside your server. So you go down a layer into those counters the card keeps about itself. Question 2. You already know that plain utilization percentage, the one NVIDIA SME prints, isn't a capacity number. So you won't be fooled by that one again. So you go to the hardware counters instead, and you pick out the one called occupancy. And that's the one people read as how busy the chip is being kept. And it comes back high, up around 80%. So are you using that GPU well? You can't tell from that number at all. So what does occupancy count? Warps that are resident on a multiprocessor, and a multiprocessor is one of the many small processors inside your card where the math actually happens. And a warp is just a small group of threads the GPU schedules together, and resident means it's been given a place and it's sitting there. So the question it's asking is how full the seats are and how many of the people in those seats are getting work done. It has no idea, and it was never counting that. And NVIDIA's own documentation says this in as many words. Higher occupancy does not necessarily indicate better GPU usage. Now, I want to be careful here because occupancy gets talked about as a trap, and that's a bit unfair. If your workload is short of bandwidth, then more warps sitting there really does help you because those extra warps are covering the weight while your data is still on its way in. And if you're short of math instead, that doesn't follow at all. So the number's fine. It's just being asked a question it can't answer. So what should you read instead? Two counters, side by side. Was the tensor pipe active? That tells you whether you're doing the math you paid for. And was the memory interface active? That's how much of your bandwidth is gone. So tensor pipe quiet with the memory interface busy, and the card is moving bytes and barely doing any math. And for the stage that writes the answer out one word at a time, that's completely normal. And the case that sends you further down is the other one. Both of those low and occupancy still high. So the warps are all sitting there and they're waiting, and nothing on that card is saturated at all. And can a counter tell you what they're waiting for? It can't, because a counter hands you how busy something was over a window, and it throws away the order things happened in. So that's a profiler, and it records your jobs along a time axis so you can see the empty spaces in between. And that's when you go and pay for one. So you pay for it, you slow your own server down, record a trace, and read the gaps between the jobs. Question 3, and it's the last one. That timeline comes back clean. The jobs run back to back, the blocks are the sizes you expected, and there's nothing sitting in the gaps waiting on the CPU. So your dashboard is structurally fine, your counters are reasonable, and your profiler shows an engine doing its job properly. And your traffic hasn't changed either, so the same requests and the same sort of prompts going in. But you're serving about half the tokens per second you were serving last week. What is it? Nothing we've looked at on the way down was ever going to find this one, and that's why it's here. Your card is running at half speed. Your GPU keeps a field that tells you why its clocks are reduced right now, and there's a software power cap in there, and a thermal slowdown, and then the one doing this to you, called hardware slowdown. And NVIDIA is very direct about that one. It reduces the core clocks by a factor of 2 or more. So what does that do to everything sitting above it? Every step takes about twice as long, so the batches still form the same way, and the cache still fills at the same points, and the queue still drains in the same order, and every ratio on your dashboard holds right where it was. All of it is in proportion. There's just less of it every second. And that gives you the one thing I'd like you to keep from this question. So when your software goes wrong, you usually spot it because one number moves and the rest don't follow it. And a slow clock just drags the whole lot down together, right? So nothing looks wrong next to anything else, and there's nothing there to find. So when all your numbers have come down together and none has moved against another, go and look at your hardware first. And it's one field read to confirm it, and the fault field and the link retry counter belong on that same alert. So here's your card, and this is the bit worth screenshotting. Start on the left with the question you're actually asking, right? Then the middle column gives you the layer that can answer it. And the right-hand one is where that same layer will lead you wrong if you bring it something else. And there's one idea running the whole way down it, and it's the one we started with. Your dashboard only sees out to the edge of your server, so the queue in front of it and your network and your client, none of that is in view. Your counters know how busy something was. Ask them why nothing was busy, and they've got nothing. And your profiler can see what happened and in what order, but it never knew how fast the clock was running while it did. And your hardware is sitting outside all three of them. So what did all three of those have in common? Every time you asked a question one step outside what the instrument could see, and it answered you anyway, and it answered you confidently. So here's the order, and it really is one sentence. You time it at the client because that's the only number your user is actually holding, and then your server metrics for which stage, and then your counters for which resource, and then your profiler for when nothing is saturated and you still need to know why. And before any of it, check that the hardware is running at full speed, because a card at half clocks can imitate almost every symptom in this course, and it'll waste the whole investigation. So what should you go and do this week? Two things, and neither takes long. Send one real request from where your users sit, time it there, and put that number next to what your dashboard says for the same window. Whatever that difference turns out to be, it's yours now, and you should know it. And the other one, if you didn't get to it last time, is that alert on the clock field. It's one rule, and it's the cheapest thing anybody's going to ask you to do. So how big was your difference? Tell me in the comments, because I genuinely like to know what people are finding. And next time is a bonus one, so you can take it or leave it, and nothing later in the course depends on it. I've put all of this on a single GPU and measured it, everything the last couple of modules have been telling you, and I'll show you what came back, including the one thing that didn't reproduce at all. See you then.